but I've tried to summarize the book in a few minutes.
Thank you. I look forward to reading that book. It sounds wonderful, and I really found great value in the Cassandra model when we used it at Euromed. It was something the students could sink their teeth into, and then immediately immediately make the connection between their own personal development and applications to their workplace.
Indeed.
It was very useful, yeah. Angela, how are we doing for time?
Well, it is 11:43 Pacific time, so we do have about 20 minutes or a little less for Q&A if you'd like to open it up now.
Maybe I'll ask one more question, and then we can open it up. How's that?
Very good.
Walter, how did you come to this? If you could tell us and just give us a glimpse into your own path.
Right.
What brought you to this moment and the passion that you have for this work?
Well, it might sound strange, but I'm by training an econometrician and an operations researcher, and for 12 years I've built econometric models, portfolio optimization, stock exchange, forecasting. And to nobody's surprise, it doesn't work. And what triggered me is, why doesn't this work? Since as a young student I've learned econometrics in the 70s, so it was all brand new, and we thought we could construct the world. I mean, that was of course the time period. And I've tried to apply it, as I said, and then I thought, well, the only way I can find out is shift to an academic career, as you indeed said in the introduction. So I did make my PhD at a later age, basically finding out why information systems didn't work in banks, etc. And in that search, I first came across artificial intelligence. I found out that econometrics, which I really knew how to do, had a lot of intrinsic limitations and assumptions that were really hidden, but that made that most econometric studies are worthless, since the assumptions aren't met and therefore the estimations have no value. So I came across things like neural networks and the beginning of agents. It wasn't that developed yet. And I started to explore that, and I was quite surprised by what it could do. From there, and it's all by accident, but everybody knows coincidence doesn't exist, since now you all believe in a quantum reality. So I came across complexity theory, and I was, of course, very intrigued by something which, as an econometrician, seems to be almost a lie, something which is impossible. Then again, in parallel, I had the big pleasure to be invited on a conference here in Aix-en-Provence, by the way, as a keynote speaker together with Varela. That's where I met Varela when he was still alive, around the learning organization. And I came across Varela and his theories, and I got very interested in what biology did. From Varela, I even don't know how I came across Sheldrick, but I came across Sheldrick. And at the end, of course, if you look into complex adaptive systems, artificial intelligence, complexity theory, biological theories, at the end it all comes together, and it perfectly fits what quantum mechanics tries to give us as questions. And everybody knows that quantum mechanics raised more questions than it gave answers. The question that quantum mechanics raise are precisely bringing together all those elements. You can go even a step further. If you go into Indian Ayurveda, if you go into the wisdom of meditation, etc., you again find a number of those same elements of theory. And that is sort of the 3, 4, 5 discoveries I made, and I became very happy after a while that I saw it was all the same. And then, of course, I came back to my initial question. So why is it that it doesn't work? Why is it that you can't describe reality? Why is it that you can't manage a company the way you want to manage it? And as I said in the beginning, I still have that idea that I would like to contribute to that shift, and I think that the most important group of people, so to say, that would benefit from that shift, and the world would benefit from that shift is managers, and that's how I stayed within a management school.
Thank you. Fantastic. And I want to say one last thing before we switch over for questions is, during the seminar, we were presenting all these wonderful theories and ideas, and then maybe around the third day, we broke into groups and started doing experientials. And I think that is really when the lid came off of the class and people really started having their own transformational experiences, and it just deepened the conversation so much, and it was such a simple thing to make available to them. Do you think that that there is I don't know if hope or application also in the workplace to actually engage in some of the transformational practices? Because it certainly speaks more than words.
I think there is, but again, you need a lot of, as you might know, we have a Zen room here, which we don't really use a lot. Where for some people that are so employees of the school, we do some experiments around meditation, sound meditation, etc. Not too much, and we could do much more. We are not the only one. There are companies, of course, that have these kind of experiments and rooms and places and organizations for their employees to experience with. I think it really would open up, and I agree with you that for many of the students it was an eye-opener, and they couldn't convince themselves anymore that it didn't exist since they experienced it themselves. I think there is room in companies, and I think you see these kind of experiments in companies, but always the same, not enough and not part of the main paradigm. As long as it remains a fancy, I exaggerate, but a fancy exercise in your free time, at lunchtime, then it is not part of the way you manage, about the values that the company goes for. And as such, it will always remain anecdotic. So I think the real shift that should take place is to make it mainstream, to make it an essential part of management, an essential part of what a company does, an essential part of what the business school does. And I think that is really the agenda if we would like to make a change.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Angela?
Yes. All right. We will open the lines up for your questions. Hope you've all been thinking of some. This has been a great discussion. As many of you know, when I take the call out of presentation mode, all of the lines are live, so you may want to pay attention and listen. When you press *6, listen for the recording that says your line has been muted, because it turns out that sometimes even though you press *6, if you don't hear that recording, your line isn't muted. And it turns out that some speaker phones, even though you press *6, they don't mute. So after you have muted your phones, you can unmute by pressing *6 again. To ask a question, please say your name, where you're calling from before your question, then press *6 again to remute your lines. So get ready on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Press *6. All right.
Hello, this is Philippe Anselmo.
Go ahead, Philippe.
Walter, I've enjoyed your talk here, and I'm just wondering if it's too late. Because I get the feeling that we're on a global Titanic sinking, and the corporation, or the corporate consciousness is the captain saying full speed ahead when the ship is half sunk and there's no more lifeboats left. So I'm looking at the news in terms of what's happening on, especially in the United States, and the subprime